Hello, Wild Growth for Women. I'm her empowerment coach, Bridget Brooks. And you guys, we have such a special treat with us today. We have Coach Ellyn, who is not only a burnout coach, but a Notion specialist. And let me tell you, like, as soon as I found out what she does and how she does it, I snatched her up. I brought her onto the Wild Growth for Women team. She is going to make sure that there is way more organization, way less chaos. So all the good things. Yes, yes. I'm so stoked about it. Ellen, please introduce yourself to our audience.
Yeah, well, like you said, I am a burnout coach and a Notion strategist, but I also am a former scientist. I have kind of a weird story for how I've gotten to doing what I'm doing. But long story short, this is a part that might resonate with a lot of you guys. I was a very high achieving high schooler. I always throw it back to high school when I tell the story, and I was a very externally validated person. So all of that when I was in high school led me to kind of doing too much, led me to doing things for other people, more so sometimes than myself. And I repeated that pattern through high school, through college, until I kind of hit a wall in grad school. And actually, that was when I found burnout and burnout coaching. And it kind of threw a monkey wrench into my life, but I needed it because I hit a wall when I was in grad school and I didn't know how to get through it. So long story short, dropped out of grad school, started coaching because I loved it. But that is not the end of my story with burnout. I burned out twice more when I was building my business. And I kind of got to a point where I was like, there's got to be a better way to do this. There has got to be a better way to do this, especially if you are building a business on the side. Like, how can we find more sustainability in this process of building our businesses, doing what we love, thriving as the ambitious, relentless, achievers that we are? There's got to be a better way to do this. And that's what I sought out and ultimately created for myself and the people that I work with. My whole thing is I always talk about a Sunday CEO because I feel like for a lot of high achievers I work with, we want the freedom and the flexibility to be able to spend our Sundays. Maybe we're doing bottomless mimosas with friends. Maybe we are in sweatpants getting some shit done. Maybe we are playing board games with our family or video games with our family. Like, we want the flexibility to be able to spend our Sundays the way we want to spend our Sundays without any shame from us or from other people. And that to me is what a Sunday CEO is about. So I help you go from shit show to Sunday CEO. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about today.
I absolutely, absolutely love it, right? Like, and the guilt is there's so much guilt in entrepreneurship, right? They're
There
not just
is, yes.
entrepreneurship, but even taking it a step further and woman entrepreneurship. I know that
True.
me and my husband to this day, we still fight about this because
Mm-hmm.
he's like, your nose is always buried in that phone. And I'm like, do you not understand? That's where my clients are. That's where I get
Mm-hmm.
my business. I'm not yelling at you when you're out at your job sites,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It's very, especially in the online entrepreneurship space, exactly what you're touching on. If you're a woman, there's a lot of guilt to it, whether it's self-imposed or guilt from other people.
yeah, and let's talk about that because what does burnout really look like for an ambitious female entrepreneur? And like what are those signs, right? Because
Yeah.
someone can be like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so tired, I'm so burnt out." And that's really completely different than actual burnout.
Yes, yes. I love that you said that too, because I think we need to differentiate stress from burnout immediately. Stress is actually not a bad thing. Stress is very adaptive. When we are under stress, we get very creative, very innovative about ways to do things. Stress is not a bad thing. So I think that's one aspect of our language that we can kind of tweak. Like, you might be stressed, but honestly, it might be one of the days where you lock in and you perform super well. When burnout happens, burnout is stress run amok. I would say the difference, how I kind of break it down in my brain, is stress is acute. It's very short term. If you have a stressful week, that's fine. You're not gonna struggle through that. But if the stressful week turns into a stressful month, 3 months, 6 months, that's when burnout might start to become a problem. So that's one differentiation I think we need to make. But in terms of what it looks like for ambitious women entrepreneurs, there's 4 different types of burnout. I would say with entrepreneurs, they generally experience 2 of them. There's an overwhelm type of burnout and there's an emotional type of burnout. And those are the ones that are particularly problematic when it comes to entrepreneurs. So I want to kind of start with the overwhelm one. Oftentimes, burnout for an ambitious entrepreneur, I think this is a common one that presents. The emotional one's a little sneakier. It looks like overfunctioning. For a very, very simplified way to put it, it looks like overfunctioning. It's not just exhaustion. It is running on adrenaline. It is productivity guilt. It is pushing through even when your body is like screaming at you to rest. It is the form of like, it's saying yes too much. It is setting unrealistic expectations for yourself. Like you have that to-do list plopped in front of you, and you know, as soon as you look at it, I'm not gonna be able to get all this shit done, but I'm gonna try.
Yeah.
Like
And
it
you know
is,
what? Let's pause for 1 second and let's take it one step back from there,
yeah.
because
Okay.
I think you hit something that we're all so notorious for, especially as females, because we are nurturers, right? And it's saying
Mhm.
yes too much.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And I get that one, it's complicated.
It
It is
is. It
complicated
is.
because it's boundaries. It's we don't feel comfortable or confident with saying no.
It's the people
I
pleaser
It's the
mentality. I
people
don't feel like
pleaser
my business is going to
mentality.
get further unless I say yes to everybody.
Yeah.
Guys, that's
Yeah.
not the way.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not the way, but I will also say, like, for the guilt side of things, I'm a big believer that overwork and burnout do not have to be synonymous. I think we have tremendous capacity to do a lot of shit.
Oh,
I
yes.
mean, we're
We are
women.
time
Like, come
benders.
on.
We are time benders.
Yeah.
When the intention is behind it, we can bend time. I'm a
When
firm believer of
intention
it.
is behind it and when there is intentional recovery
Yes.
behind it.
The
I think
refine
it's
and
not
reset.
necessarily about how much we work. I think it's about how we work and why we work, which kind of ties into the emotional side of burnout. But actually, before we go into that, I do want to say something about boundaries, because I know for some of there's probably some people in this room that boundaries is not the problem for them.
Right.
Like they're like, "Oh, you need me to say no, to clock out, like I can do that." The thing that they might struggle with a little bit more is their own self-imposed desire to keep working. It's not necessarily about other people, it's about them. So what I really encourage is think of boundaries like you're building a muscle. Like you wouldn't go to the gym and immediately start curling 50-pound dumbbells. You'd start with the fives and you'd work your way up.
Absolutely.
Boundaries is the exact same way. So if what you are struggling with is you are over functioning, you want to be working all the time. I'm not the burnout coach that's going to shame that, but what I am going to tell you is you have to make space for recovery, because that's not sustainable to work all the time. And I'm literally speaking as somebody who probably works more than any burnout coach ever should. So like I get it, but we've got to be intentional about our recovery, and we've got to start building those little ways in which we can set boundaries with ourselves. Slowly but surely over time, we're going to get better, and we're going to build bigger boundaries, and we're going to get more comfortable with it.
Yes. And that leads beautifully into our next point. And one of
Mhm.
that is that you're really known for saying balance is bullshit, right? Like
Yes.
that is what you're known for saying. I've heard you say it. So, and we've
Yeah.
been just connected in just a short amount of time, probably 3
Yeah.
now. So tell us what you mean by that.
Oh, okay. I have very strong opinions about balance. And essentially, what I mean when I say that is I feel like this whole notion of balance, this whole notion of work life balance, I feel like it sets us up for failure from the get go. And that's what, and I think when I say it sets us up for failure, what I quite literally mean is how most of us think about balance is we think about having like a balanced day or a balanced week.
Or a balanced
It
diet.
is or balanced diet even. I'm going
Yeah.
to kind of think about it more along the lines of the entrepreneurial space and how you're spending your time as an entrepreneur, because I think that's probably immediately where our brain goes. You're setting yourself up for failure when you approach it that way, because it's literally not possible. It's literally not possible to have balance in the conventional sense over the course of a day or a week or even a month. Like we think about it. I'm like going to numbers break it down, because I'm a former scientist. I like data. So if we look at your day, 24 hours in a day, let's say you are one of the humans that actually sleeps enough. And we'll even put it on the short end of the sleep. Let's say you get 7 hours of sleep every day. Awesome. Go you. Adults need 7 to 9. So you're on the low end of that, but that's cool. You've got 17 hours left. And let's say you work a normal 40 hours, which most entrepreneurs probably don't, but we're going to be conservative with this. That means that you have 8 hours of that 17 hours of awake time that is being dedicated to working. So there's 9 hours left. You have 9 hours to spend on everything else in your life. Your health, your relationships, your personal goals. Huh?
Children.
Children. Yeah, I'm childless, so I don't immediately think But
That
yes,
would be the first
children.
one for me with having the
Yeah.
3-year-old, right? Like that's the majority
Which
of the time.
the 9 hours, how much of that 9 hours would your 3-year-old monopolize?
30 minutes, honestly.
Really?
Yeah, because
You
if
got a
you
chill
think about it,
3-year-old.
well, no, when we get home, right? Because he's at the babysitter all day,
That's fair.
right? So
Yeah.
when we come back home, it's dinner, boom, shower, boom, bed, boom, right?
Yeah, that's true. 3-year-olds do sleep a lot more than we do. But you kind of see what I'm saying though, is like that 9 hours to have to split that 9 hours up amongst all of the other obligations that you have in your life. It is not possible
Mm.
for us to be balanced with how much work takes up our day-to-day lives. So now if we expand that on a week, let's say again, you're an abnormal entrepreneur and you're actually only working 5 days out of the week.
I want to
That's
be like that.
5 days. Yeah, right. Most of us don't. Like, let's be
Right.
honest. But like, I'm trying to be on the conservative end of it. Most of us are working 5 days out of every 7. So 5 of your days are going to be monopolized by work. And you have to catch up on the rest of your life and the remaining 2. Even that is not logistically possible because no matter what, no matter who you are, childless or you have kids, one of those 2 weekend days is spent doing like life admin, like groceries and cooking and
Laundry,
laundry.
cleaning,
So
yeah.
you really only have a day over the course of any given week. Again, we're looking at a conservative schedule to actually be able to do all of those other aspects of life. This is what I mean when I say balance is bullshit. When we have a balanced mentality, we are literally setting ourselves up to fail. And again, this is even worse if you're somebody who's like an ambitious entrepreneur, because I was on the low end of all of those estimates. It actually doesn't look like that for you. So I think that's one of the big ways that balance is bullshit. We're looking at like creating a balanced life on way too small of a scale. I think it's actually way more practical to say, did I have a balanced 3 months? Did I have a balanced 6 months? Did I have a balanced year? Or better yet, because I just generally don't like the word balance, I don't think it's about balance. I think it's about sustainability. It's not about, is my life balanced? It's about, am I showing up to work? Am I showing up to my health? Am I resting in a way that I am creating a lifestyle for myself that is sustainable? Because most entrepreneurs don't, and they crash and burn.
They don't. And here's the thing, that word is not used enough in the
No,
entrepreneurial space.
no.
Sustainability, and it doesn't matter if you're talking about marketing, it doesn't matter if you're talking about sales, it doesn't
Mhm.
matter if you're talking about burnout. That word is not used enough in the entrepreneur world because it's
Absolutely.
just not.
Yeah. Yeah. I personally, every time I hear balance, I swap in sustainability. It is like balance is a lose lose, frankly, because even if you do happen to find balance, quote unquote balance, like you're probably going to feel unfulfilled in a sense because you're going to feel like you have to tamp down your ambition. You have to ramp down the goals that you have for yourself to have this quote unquote balance. So it's bullshit. It's setting yourself up for failure, and it's not something that most ambitious, relentless entrepreneurs actually want. We want to be able to keep going,
It's the
but we
freedom.
want to be able exactly that. Yes. Freedom is one of my values, and freedom is probably why I would say 90+% of entrepreneurs went into entrepreneurship is they wanted freedom in some capacity,
And not
and
even
balance doesn't give you that.
entrepreneurship. I can remember when it was 2018. So that's when I just entered the real estate industry, the title industry. I was in title and
Mhm.
escrow. I had a very, very dynamic boss, right? She
Mhm.
very, very dynamic in the sales arena, taught me everything I needed to know about the corporate world. And when we were sitting down talking about what our goals were, she said, Bridget, do you think I took this position because I want to lead people? I looked at her and I went, what do you mean? And she goes, I want the freedom that comes with this position.
Yeah.
And even so, it's even women at high executive CEO levels, they're taking those roles because of the freedom that comes with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't that
Which
sad?
is it's just interesting to me because I see like I've spoken to executive level employees, and I don't really, I mean, they have a bit more freedom than like a mid-level manager, but like really they don't have freedom.
No,
So,
they don't. They don't at all. And that's why it's so uncanny because that boss, she's still in the title world to this day. And
mhm,
she's incredible in the EQ space and emotional
mhm,
intelligence. I mean,
mhm.
was the first one that really opened my eyes to mindset, mindfulness,
Hmm.
all of that, right? She's
Hmm.
still in that corporate world and she keeps talking about, I'm going to go out and I'm going to start my own business teaching other corporates, venues about EQ. And I'm like, why haven't you started it yet then?
Dude, yeah. Well, honestly, she probably hasn't started it because of exactly what I ran into of it is hard to do it on the side. Like
Hard to
most
do
of us
it on
don't
the
have
side,
the
but this
capacity.
woman is wasting her talents being in the corporate space,
Yeah. Oh,
you
yeah. No,
know?
I'm not arguing with
And
you on
she
that
would
one.
get so much more freedom if she just bet on herself and took the leap.
Mhm. The bet on yourself is the hard part for a lot of us.
But she's the one that
I'm
taught me
amazed that I
that.
ended up in
Like she's the one that
entrepreneurship.
taught me, right?
Yeah.
She's
Okay.
the one
That's
that
fair.
taught me
I'm
to bet on
amazed that I
myself.
ended up in entrepreneurship because I'm very risk averse. Like it takes me, I have to have a lot of data supporting me making a decision. And I'm very risk averse, or it just has to get to the point where it's so painful to stay and keep doing what I'm doing that
Uh,
like it's going to be better to make the change.
I hear that 100%. And that actually leads me to my next question with you is what's one sneaky burnout trigger that you see that just happens all the time?
It might not be like obviously sneaky. Well, I guess that's why it's sneaky, but it's like it might be something that is like you might not think this is that sneaky, but it is overcommitment.
Yeah.
Overcommitment and or shiny object syndrome.
Shiny object syndrome, I see it all the time,
Mhm.
especially in the entrepreneur space, because that's all it is it's
Yeah,
something latest, greatest, new hitting
exactly.
the market.
Exactly. And I kind of feel like they're two sides of the same coin. Like shiny object syndrome leads you to overcommitting.
Yes.
And what I think can be really interesting about shiny object syndrome is I think when we say shiny object syndrome to a bunch of entrepreneurs, they think, oh, we're talking about like the fact that I constantly want to change my niche or I constantly want to change my offers. I think it also applies to your systems. I literally, as we are recording this week, the podcast for my podcast that came out on Tuesday was I told my system story, like how I got to be using Notion and doing Notion systems. And the long and short of it is, used to be a paper planner person. I bullet journaled back in the day. Like, I used to be an Erin Condren like affiliate. I would get like discounts on
I
stuff
love
from having
that.
people sign up for that. Like, I was a paper planner person. But after I decided I wanted to go digital, I was a systems hopper. I would go from like, I would learn about a new system and be like, this is going to fix all of my problems. And then I would move into said new system, realize I didn't like it, and then hop to another one and hop to another one. So the shiny object syndrome can be with our systems too. Like we could see, oh, so and so is building their community on School, or so and so's website is on Kajabi. I
Mhm.
absolutely hate Kajabi's marketing because they're literally like, this person built their business on Kajabi and now they're a millionaire. And I'm like, they're not a millionaire because they built their business on Kajabi. Like that has nothing to do with while
That's
they're a
funny
millionaire.
because I have been in the digital space. I think I'm going on 9 years now. I think
Yeah.
I started in Kajabi. Very
Yeah.
funny. But it's funny too because I am a very risk person. I love the risk. I am very
Mhm.
impulsive. But if I look at my systems from the time I started to the where I'm at now, I've only been with 3 platforms. And that was Kajabi,
Ooh, duh.
ClickFunnels, and now Go High Level. And I've been with Go High Level for 3.5 years. I'm scared to go anywhere else from Go High Level because it has everything I need.
Yeah. Yeah. See, and I think for me, I'm now that way with Notion. I do think I kind of equated, in the podcast, I told the story of how you know how when you're early on in business, you might hop around in your niche
Yeah.
because you're trying to find the one that feels like home. And as soon as I found burnout, I had no desire to be elsewhere. Like this is where I'm meant to be in the coaching space. It kind of was the same thing when I found Notion. As soon as I found it, as soon as I really like dug into it and realized like and started working with it, this is the place I meant to be. I have no desire to change. So maybe you just stumbled on your system that worked for you early, like I don't know. I don't necessarily know what it is, but I think that's one thing to keep in mind if you're an entrepreneur. A shiny object syndrome doesn't necessarily mean jumping around and like incorporating all of these new services and ideas. It can, but it can also mean are you jumping around in your systems too?
Sometimes your coaches, are you coach hopping? That's a big
Yep.
one.
I did that too.
So did I. So did I. But you know what? Here's the thing. We've talked a lot about Notion today, and
Mhm.
we haven't really touched on what Notion is. So for my
Yeah.
listeners that are hearing us go, Notion, 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 everything Notion, and they're like, what the heck is Notion? Can you break that
Yeah.
down for us?
Yes, yes. So the long and short of it is Notion is a productivity app. So you probably seen people using like the Asana or the ClickUp or their Monday, Trello. There's like 80 bajillion productivity apps out there. Notion is a productivity app, but how I think of Notion is I think of it like we all know Google Drive. We probably all use Google Drive in some capacity. Google Drive has Google Tasks, Google Sheets, Google Docs. How I think of Notion is if you took all of those tools inside Google Drive and mixed them all together and all of those tools had a baby, it's Notion. Because Notion has the ability to do word processing and documentation, tables, like charts. So just like your sheets does, task management. Like I have so many things on this online, and honestly, I should cheat and pull one up on Instagram right now. Notion has replaced so many apps for me. I used to use Planoly and or Buffer to schedule out all of my social media content. That's in Notion now. I no longer pay for those apps. I used to use a system called, I've used Honeybook, but I also have used practice.do, which I don't even know if that's around anymore. But that was a client management system. So where it was a CRM, it was a place for me to do client portals. That's inside of Notion now. So like all of these tools that I think a lot of us as entrepreneurs get spread out over like 80 bajillion different apps that run our business, except maybe you because you're just using Go High Level, and Go High Level is an all-in-one. I'm a big fan of all-in-one systems over specialized systems. I think specialized systems drain your pocketbook and they overwhelm you. But essentially what Notion does is it's a way to streamline all of those systems down so that your business essentially operates out of a single hub. Shit you not, I have Notion up. Notion and Google Chrome are literally the only two things that I have up over the course of any given day to day.
I wish. I can't wait. I can't wait for you to start building out our system, our Notion, all of that. Like, and you've seen if anybody at any given point, any of my clients, I share my
Mm-hmm.
screen with, they're going to see that I have a minimum 25 tabs open. That's the low end for me, right? So
Mm-hmm.
to hear you be like, I only have Notion and Google Chrome open, I'm just
Mm-hmm.
like, stop
I mean, I
it.
will tell you, I have multiple tabs in Notion. I have multiple tabs in Google Chrome. So, like, don't think I literally only have like two things up, but like, that's all I need.
I
Like,
love it.
I have set my business up in a way that Notion is the one-stop shop for everything. Like, quite literally, I could be doing client work, content creation. Like, I could be hashing out like a new thing I'm going to be launching later in the year. And all of those components of my business are in Notion.
For a person with ADHD like me, it's a
Yeah.
god. It is a godsend.
Mhm.
So this has all been so much fun. I loved talking burnout with you. I love even more talking Notion with you. For my audience that maybe they need a little bit of support in burnout, or maybe they
Mhm.
need to get their shit organized like me and want to talk to you about Notion, how can they reach out to you?
Oh, good question. So I'm Coach Ellyn everywhere. My first name is spelled Ellyn because I'm just trying to mess you up, but Coach Ellyn everywhere. So coachellyn.com is a great place to kind of check out my services. I have a start page on that website. I have a burnout starter kit on that website. So if you really need tools, whether it's systems related tools or burnout related tools, honestly, just go to coachellyn.com/start and I've got your tools for you. But in terms of like places where you can get to know me, get to know my vibe, get to know if you would like, I don't know, enjoy working with me, Instagram is probably the most unfiltered you're going to see me. I am also on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the corporate side of Ellyn though. So I'm not as you don't hear the dating stories, you don't hear me swear, you don't see the like goofball shenanigans. All that stuff goes down on Instagram at Coach Ellyn. So that's probably the best place to get to know my personality. But if you are somebody who maybe you are in the leadership space in a company right now and you want to bring people in for burnout, that's LinkedIn's a good place to check me out. But for everything else, for entrepreneurship, Instagram. Instagram's fun. Instagram's my jam.
You heard it. Coach Ellyn, we are so grateful that you are here with us today, sharing all the tips about avoiding burnout and how we can make Notion more useful in streamlining and organizing our business. I am so grateful for you. I'm so excited to welcome you into the Wild Growth for Women family. We are going to be doing huge things in 2025, so keep a lookout. Ladies, as always, I'm so grateful for you. I'm so thankful for you. Don't forget about the Empowered Collective. When you're ready to really move the needle in your business, you're looking for a community of cheerleaders, supporters, and entrepreneurs who lean more on the holistic side. The Empowered Collective is for you. We are running the Founder Circle right now. The Founder Circle is $333 a month or $3,333 for the year, and you will not regret it. That's all I have today. Love you guys.